Hey everyone, welcome back to Snack Time. My name is Ben, and in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at 4GA boards. And 4GA boards is a project management solution. It's open source, which is really cool because that means we can set it up on our own server, and it has a ton of customization. I'm really excited to show this to you guys. Let's not stall anymore. Let's jump right in. When you first arrive to the sign in, or if you set up your instance, you will be requested to sign in. So you can create an account, but that account won't have admin privileges. They do give you a default one that you can go ahead and sign in that has admin rights. You can invite other users and promote them, which I definitely encourage you to do. The first credentials you're going to be using is demo and demo. Very easy. It's also documented on their site. All right, so on the left hand side, this is where we will manage our projects and our boards. So projects is just like the overarching project, and certain projects, whether it be remodeling your kitchen or developing software, individual boards also help you track maybe different teams as well. So that can be very helpful. In my past example, I always use it like I'm remodeling my kitchen and I need to make sure that's tracked really well. In this instance, I'm going to say, instead of a kitchen, I'm going to create a project, and I'm going to give it a name down here at the bottom. I'm going to say like house remodel. And so we have our house remodel, and now we need to add our boards. So let's add a board, and let's just call this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, show it to you. Let's just call this kitchen. So this can be, how about we do a board for every room that we are going to be remodeling. When you are setting these up, you have a couple of options. You have the ability to assign this to a different project. You can also come in here and you can select from the templates. You have simple or Kanban. Basically the difference is Kanban will set up all of the columns for you, and simple, I'm not really sure what that does. I think so. Yeah, when we selected simple, it basically just sets up a couple of lists for some kind of demo ones, or not really demo, just like some starter ones, which are really popular when you're doing this sort of project Kanban management. Let's do this. I'm going to click on these periods, and I'm going to delete this board, and I want to show you what it looks like when we start from scratch. So we'll add a board, and we'll just call this kitchen. We're not going to create any sort of templates. That's fine. We also have an import option down here at the bottom. Don't know if you can see that, where you can import from GA boards, which is basically you can export it a board and re-import it at a later date. You can also import from, it looks like Trello. So let's not do any imports, and let's just add a board. So when you are creating your very first board, unless you used one of the templates, you're not going to have any of the columns going across the screen. It's going to request that you make those yourself, because maybe not every single board is going to use the same columns. Maybe there's different stages to the project that you want to indicate here. It's maybe not just so much cookie cutter like new, in progress, completed. So let's do this. Let's create a couple of lists. So let's start off with our very first one is we're going to be, I'm just going to call this concept. We're going to add that. And then from there, it's going to keep asking us, what other ones you got? Let's do quotes. Maybe we're going to track like our quotes. How about in progress? And then I'm going just to say, completed. I'm not going to get too fancy with this, but as you can see, you can keep on going as much as you want to. Let's see here. From that, we are going to, since this is going to be our kitchen, I want to plan some new cabinets. So let's add a card, and this we're going to call this, we're just going to call this cabinet. What's really cool is you can enter the name. When you hit Control Enter, it will open it for you. That's pretty awesome. Let's show you what that looks like. So beyond cabinets, maybe we want to replace the fridge. I'm going to hit Control Enter, and check it out. On the right hand side over here, I'm going to move myself out of the way. On the right hand side, we have a couple of really cool options. So we can add members, so we can add other people to this specific, I guess they call it card. Yeah. And we can also add labels, which is really cool. So say we had a label and we want to add label to this one, be like appliances. I don't think I spelled that right. I didn't. I'm horrible. Sorry. Look at spelling. That's what spell check's for. So I'm going to create a new one called appliances. I'm going to give it a freaking awesome color. I'm going to call it blue. And then I can add that label there, which is really cool. Like I said, a whole bunch of stuff you can do. We have our due date. That's very common. So we can select our date that we want this to be completed by. Next up, we have our timer, which is really neat. We can edit the timer. Let's say, so if we wanted to start it, we could. We can also just add some manual time in there if we want. So say we have 5 minutes and we've already put 5 minutes into this. That's really awesome. So you can check the amount, track the amount of time that you have put into these specific like cards. I don't want to use the word tasks because tasks is used a little bit below here, which is kind of cool. Subscribe. So do you want to get notifications when this thing is updated, when people make comments? Do you want to be notified? Sure, why not? I'm going to pause my timer for right now. What's really cool is you can see that over here on the far left. Check this out. So that little card has a countdown timer on it too, that you can start and stop even from this screen, which is pretty neat. All right, so let's go back over here. For description, we can get extremely detailed. So you can add and format any of this text any way you want to. I believe it also supports kind of like a little Markdown language, I think. Let's see. I think he said it was some sort of advanced editor, but it may just be the advanced editor is what they have here at the top. I think that's the way that it goes. Let's see here. Oh no, yeah, it does do Markdown. Check it out. So yeah, so you can use Markdown language. That's cool. So yeah, you just use this preview code and it will show you a preview of it. So it kind of split screens right there. So as you're editing it, you'll see what the final is going to be. We can go full screen. Nice. Let me zoom out and show you. This is full screen. I'm gonna jump back out of there. And then we can go back to our code editing. So if you're really good at Markdown languages, then this is definitely the one for you. Because check this out, we can put also some code in there. Like let's do HTML and hi. That's not very good HTML. Don't use that as an example. And check it out. So if we do split, it should be in a little code box. Yeah, there it is. I love Markdown language. If you don't know about it, definitely check it out. There's a lot of really cool resources and you can basically make it look really nice and formatted without, or I say with minimal code knowledge, other than, you know, to learn HTML or CSS or any of that. Next up, we have some cool things here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and I'm going to zoom back in because I want you to be able to see all these. We can add tasks to this card. So maybe the first task that we need to do, since we're doing a fridge, is I need to visit Best Buy. Maybe get prices over there. Then I also need to, I want to check a couple of competitors. I'm gonna check out, let's just check out Amazon. See what they have, any sales, and lastly we can, you know, let's see what kind of stuff we're gonna like. Oh yeah, how about this? Talk to the significant other about cost. So there we have our different tasks, and this is just an example. I'm not going to try to sell you on using this to you know, manage your kitchen remodel, but you can any project really. I mean, that's what's the greatest thing about this. We can add attachments here, so that's pretty straightforward. Add our attachments, add files. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, so we can drag too. Okay, so yeah, we can drag too. So let's do this. Let's drag this picture over here and let's just drop this. So check it out. So we have we dragged over an image, which is kind of cool, and it's also giving us the option to make it a cover. So hey, that's cool. Check this crap out. Look at that. That's awesome. That's really freaking cool. And lastly, we have our comments. So You know, I love things that keep my food cold. Dave. So that's awesome. That's really cool. All right, so after that, after we're all said and done, let's check out a couple more options with our cards. We zoom in here. All of the basic things that we were able to edit on this screen, we are also able to edit here. Beyond that, we're able to duplicate the card. So if we did do some formatting, something we wanted to keep, and then we have copy link, which I assume kind of gives us an easy to access way, or an easy way to access our cards. So yeah, pretty cool. All right, so let's exit this out. And as before, if you've ever worked with Kanban boards, it's pretty much a matter of tracking the progress of your different tasks, of your different lists. And the best way of doing that is just to pick it up and we're going to drag it over. So if maybe we did complete some of those tasks, we hit up Best Buy, we hit up Amazon. We're about 2/3 complete on this task, which you can also see right here, which is really cool. You'll be able to track the progress, which is, like I said, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's really freaking cool. Let's see. Beyond that, that's kind of a Kanban board in a nutshell, right? So it's if you've ever used them before, you should have no problem with picking up. If you've used Trello, if you've used any other of the open source projects, I think Vicuña is another great one. But if you've ever used any of those, it's similar concepts. I really like the way that they've done this. I really do. And next up, we can change a little bit about our project. If you wanted to add an image, or if you wanted to change the background, you can do that too. I haven't seen really where it makes a difference in the color scheme. Maybe I'm just missing it, but let me know. We can filter cards, which is cool. So we can do a little bit of a search as well. One thing that I do want to show you, which is very cool, when you jump into here initially, even before you've created anything, you can go into under the Getting Started project and learn 4GA boards. And there's a bunch of little tutorials, little hints and tricks and resources that you can use to learn more about this software. A lot of this stuff I did cover, but some of this stuff maybe you're a little bit more interested in. Maybe you're interested in the advanced text editing that can happen over here. Well, you can click on this little card and check it out. Here's all the different ways that we can format our text. Isn't that freaking crazy? That's awesome. One thing I really, really, really like about this too is the collapsible lists. I love that. Like if you have a whole bunch of lists, maybe you don't want to scroll to the right or to the left. Well, you can just like collapse them. You can come in here and you can click on this little, check it out, this little button right here, this little like arrow, and it collapses it. So you can still see that it has cards. You can uncollapse it as you like, but it gets it out of the way so that maybe you can concentrate on things that are more important to you, stuff that maybe I only really want to focus on the things that are under the basics, or things that maybe pertain to the in progress stuff of my kitchen. So I think that covers a lot of it. Let's take a look at the settings, specifically the admin specific stuff. Not a lot, but still want to cover. You can tell if you're an admin. You'll see this icon at the top here, which will allow you to manage your users. So if we click on that guy, we'll be presented with the users that we already have. And if we want to add somebody new, we'll just hit add new user. We'll have to come up with an email address. How about ben@synack.com? Password, something super complicated. And I can give myself a name, Ben, and username is optional. I believe you can sign in with either username or an email address when you are authenticating. I'm going to add myself as a user. That's pretty much all you really need to do. You can edit this user. You can reset the password, delete. You can also edit the email address information. So if we edit information, you can give them an organization, a phone number, just the basics. And lastly, we have the what kind of privileges are they going to have? So we have either admin or no admin, and that's cool. That's really all you need, honestly. This is really about tracking progress, or not really a ton of settings that you really need to change. We do have a few. If you go under settings, we can enable or disable user registration. We can also enable or disable this SSO. So if you are using SSO to sign in, like sign in with Google or whatever, you can enable or disable that, as well as the local. That's pretty much about it. All the rest of this stuff, it really pertains to the user specific settings that everybody's going to have access to. Changing our password, changing our email or our username, and then our preferences. Do I want to subscribe to my own board? All of your settings here are described over here on the right hand side. Default view, do I want to do a list? Do I want to do board? And then have a lot of options on language. So if English isn't your first primary language, that is okay. Maybe you feel more comfortable with Dutch. Yeah, you do that. So beyond that, our profile is just, you put a picture of yourself, and you can also update your own personal information. So very straightforward. If we jump back to the main settings, oh, there it is. Okay, it changed the color. It changes it when you're looking at the project view. Isn't that pretty? I think you can also add an image there too if you wanted to give it a certain picture. It's the same. I think it's the same way as the task. You just drag the image over there, and it'll show up there, and it looks beautiful. We can also hide our taskbar on the left hand side here. So if we click on this little button, it slides it out of the way. So now you can really fully concentrate on your project and your boards, and then you can bring it back whenever you're ready. So one thing that I would love to see, I would like to see MFA. That would be awesome. The other thing that I think would be really cool is to be able to change the logo or the appearance of the site. I did a little bit of searching, but I didn't find too much information. But this is not necessarily a new project, but they're really trying to get it out there for the open source community. If you go to their site, which I believe we can hit up from here, they do have a couple of options when it comes to how you want to be able to use this software. They do have a subscription service that you can fire up. $6 a month you get Pro, $10 is per month you get Enterprise, or as what I'm going to show you here in a second, on-premise or self-hosted for larger teams and organizations. That is completely free for you to use. So something to keep in mind. You can also trial it out if you want to, and they have a demo environment if you want to hit try now, and you can go to the demo boards. Username I believe is also demo, or no, okay, never mind. You have to do like the register, and you can create an account and do register with Google. Don't think they have unlocked demo just because I believe that, yeah, so that's locked out. But check it out. This is a great way to show off. You can enable register with Google too, so that's cool. But like I said, we're not going to use the pay version, but I definitely encourage you to kind of take a look at it. Look at their site. They put a lot of time and effort into their website. It looks great, and they also have put a decent amount of resources into the documentation too. So check that out. They got a FAQ, they got a blog, and like I said, they've put a lot of effort into it. So if you consider running this, I would definitely encourage you to find a way to at least throw them a little bit of money. Maybe even if you're self-hosting, look at signing up for an account. Like I said, they do really amazing work. It's very clean, and honestly, it just looks good. So let's do this. I am going to show you how to set this up on your environment, but we're going to need a couple of things first. We are going to need a Docker instance. It could be Windows, it could be Linux. We're going to need Portainer on Docker. We're also going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager because I do want this internet facing. I want my team to be able to access it no matter where they are. I will also show you different ways so that you can get around that. If you prefer not to have it internet facing, that's okay. I will show you the differences that we will be performing on the configuration that will dictate if it is internet facing or not. Enough frickin' talking. I know you probably fast forwarded already. So let's jump in. Let's get this installation cranking. All right, I hope you are ready to rock and roll. We are going to jump right into this installation, since I know you are anxious to get this up and going on your server. So while we're on this web page, let's just go ahead and click on Star Us on GitHub, and that'll take us straight to their GitHub page. I'll also put a link down below. As we scroll down, we'll be presented with all of the goodness that they have to provide, and that includes if you want to set this up manually, if you want to use Kubernetes, TrueNAS, whatever. We are going to be using Docker Compose. That is the recommended installation path. So let's go ahead and click on this guy. So there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. We can use the installation through the terminal. I would prefer to use Portainer. Just allows me to manage it a little bit better. But we do have a couple of variables that we can set, but they mostly relate to the Google SSO and a couple of the database keys and URLs and everything. So I will be showing you how to do that too. This is actually the Docker Compose file that we need. So let's go ahead and copy this. Boom, copied. And let's go to Portainer. So now under Portainer, let us go to Stacks. And let's click on Stacks and not something else. All right, and let's add. And so we're going to just be calling this 4GA boards, and you can call it whatever you want to. And let's paste in what we have. So again, every video I do is always going to be me reviewing with you what each one of these settings does. So I don't want you to be surprised. I want you to know exactly what you are installing on your own server, which is just good practice. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the database. It is going to be a Postgres server. Awesome. We are going to have a restart policy of always. That means that the server reboots, we're going to fire it up, even if it was stopped. You can do unless stopped here if you wanted to. That way, if you did want to stop it and reboot your server, it won't fire up immediately, but I don't really see any harm in keeping it where it is. The volumes are set up exactly the way that we want them. We want them to be managed by Portainer, at least have, Portainer has a knowledge of them, which is what's happening here. So we're creating this volume of DB data. Nice. Next up, we have our Postgres database. This is going to be the name, which is going to be called 4GA boards. If you do decide to change this, keep in mind that you also have to change it in a couple of other places down below. I'm going to leave it as it is, but I am going to change my password. I'm going to call this 4GA rocks 123, and that's going to be my Postgres password. I definitely encourage you to at least change that. Next up, we have some arguments for our Postgres server. It looks like we're doing scram SHA-256 for some encryption. And then we have a health check that's happening that says, you know what, make sure you run this command. And we're going to be using the username of Postgres and the checking of the database right here. And we're just going to be making sure that the server's up. And that means that when it does run, it'll run this, I believe its interval is every 1 second. The timeout is 5 seconds, and this has 50 retries, which means it has to fail 50 times in order for the service to be considered unhealthy. And typically what that means is when it's considered unhealthy, the other containers that rely on that as being a prerequisite will sometimes fail, bail out, and give you problems. But I don't foresee this being an issue. So let's keep scrolling. We do have our 4GA boards actual container that we're going to be setting up, and we're gonna have the image here that we're gonna pull. Again, restart policy as always. The networks we're going to be joining is called a boards-network. That's fine as long as we're joining the same one up here, which we are. That's cool. Some of them specify it, some of them don't. If you wanted to, you could remove this and Portainer would create one for you automatically. So don't really need that in there, but for now we're just going to leave it. We're creating a couple more volumes. We're creating a user avatar, some project background images, and also attachments. So if you're wondering, hey, where are all my attachments for my projects and everything else? Well, they're going to be in this volume, which we'll be able to see on the left-hand side once it's created. Next up, we have our ports. Now, remember when I told you earlier that if you did not want to put this on the internet, I would tell you, well, this is the part where you have to make a determination. Am I gonna go left? Am I gonna go right? But left is we keep it local and we don't do it internet facing, and you leave this setting alone. Option right is we do make it internet facing, and we go ahead and close these ports because we don't want these ports to be handling any sort of traffic. We want Nginx Proxy Manager to filter all that traffic for us. So that's something that you will have to decide on your own. If you do decide to leave it as only local and not do anything with the internet or Nginx Proxy Manager or subdomains, you'll be basically accessing this site on port 3000. 3000 will forward the traffic over to 1337 on the container side. And if you're super cool, you know what that means. And if you do, let me know down below. All right, we do have a couple of environment variables that we should probably change. First off, we have our base URL. This is where we're going to decide where we're going to be hosting our cool 4GA board. I have an idea as far as where I want to put it. I am going to make it HTTPS because I want it to be encrypted. And I also am going to add it to my SYNACK domain as a subdomain. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But I'm going to call this 4ga.synack.com. I don't need the ports there because I'm going to make the HTTPS, and I'm going to make sure that Nginx Proxy Manager forwards all the traffic to where it needs to be. I don't need a specific port number. Can you leave it? Sure, if you wanted to, that's totally fine. It's not going to be the same configuration with Nginx Proxy Manager, but you can do it. Secret key. This will probably just be a random key that you generate just so that it encrypts it specifically to your board. Let's confirm that I am not crazy. And let's see, your secret key is a session secret key. So yeah, we just want to make sure that this is something unique and something that you have assigned and only you know what it is. Honestly, I don't really need anything too secret right now since this isn't going to live anywhere. But for the rest of you, you could just do a password manager, or you could just be like, blah, 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 blah. Let's not put any symbols in it. Sometimes special characters mess with that. There we go. There's my secret key. Isn't it so beautiful? All right, so next up, since we did change our Postgres password, we are going to need to update our database URL. This first part is just saying, hey, it's Postgres. And then we go to our next part. This first part is right here where it says the http://. The first part is going to be our username, which is going to be Postgres. And our password right here, which we did change at the top, is going to have to reflect what we changed it to. Remember, I did tell you that if you changed it, you're gonna have to change it in other places. And lastly, we do have our database name, which is called 4GA boards. So if you decided, hey, I don't like that database name and you changed it up here, just keep in mind that you also have to change it here. So the good thing about this composer file is that a lot of these settings are very unique, so you shouldn't have to guess too much. And if there are any questions, check out their documentation right here, which will cover anything that might be confusing or you might have questions about. But I think we covered most everything. I think so, yeah. Next up is our node environment. We are going for production on this. This is not a development in it, but there is documentation about doing like a developer instance, but we're not going to really cover that. I want mine to be functional with very little beta things or anything else. All right, so the last thing that we're going to cover before I move on, remember that database, that condition being healthy. Oh, this is what's checking on it. This is our depends. So this is saying this container depends on the database container with the condition being service is healthy. So if it was unhealthy, then this one would have problems. By the way, we almost forgot something. I told you we were going to comment that out, and I never did. We're going to put a couple of hashtags there. Not a problem. All right, next up we have our volumes, and this is just going to tell Portainer, hey, we need some volumes created, and those volumes are user avatars, project backgrounds, attachment DBs, blah blah. And we also need a network created, and we're going to be calling that network the boards-network. So this just allows Portainer to go ahead and know that these need to be created. They don't already exist. And so yeah, let's do this. Let's zoom out, spend a lot of time on the compose file, and let's go ahead and deploy this sucker. Beautiful. We have a nice little stack created. We can jump in here. We can see that they're starting and they're healthy, and we can see that our database is being created. Life is good, and we can go on about our business. So cool. Before we move on to creating the subdomain, I want to do a little bit of groundwork with our Nginx Proxy Manager. If you have not set this up and you're wondering where in the world this step came from, do yourself a favor, check out my videos that show you how to set up your own Docker container and Nginx instance on the cloud or locally. I think I also did one locally. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and go under Nginx Proxy Manager. And for this guy, I'm going to move my head yet again. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And for my networks, I want to join the same network that my 4GA is on. So I'm going to drop this down, and you'll see that I have my 4GA right there, my boards. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the join network. This will refresh. We'll go to the bottom. We'll see that we are joined. We have an IP address. Hallelujah. All right, next up, let's go off to our DNS so that we can set up our subdomain so that we can start like sending people to a legit website with all the bells and whistles. I'm going to be using Namecheap's DNS. However, if you are using something else, maybe you're using GoDaddy, maybe you're using a custom domain server, all the terminology that I'm using here should translate over to whatever you are using. So keep that in mind. If you do have questions, you can always leave them down below. I'm sure I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, so let's add a new record. We're going to be creating an A record, and we're going to be using a host of, what did I say? 4GA. Yeah. And so what that means is, since this is an A record, think of it as A records are going to mean anything. It's going to appear right in front, off to the left of this synhow. So it's going to be 4ga.synhow, and that will be our subdomain. So I'm also going to forward this traffic to the external IP address of my server, which just so happens to be the same one as my other subdomains that I have set up. You can see I have like a Portainer one and a couple others. So let's do this. Let's save changes. This is going to go ahead and save my changes and create my DNS entries for me. I love that Namecheap just makes this super easy. If you've ever done any sort of manual DNS work in the past, you can definitely appreciate the ease of just having a save all changes button, and it just worked. Eventually. There we go. All right, now that that's done, our subdomain is created. It's out on the internet. People can get to it, but if they go to it, it's not going to take them anywhere fun. We need to configure our Nginx Proxy Manager in order for that to happen. All right, let's jump over here. I'm going to go to my proxy hosts. Let's go ahead and create one. I'll hit add new proxy host. All right, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. And it's asking us for a domain name, and the one that we just set up, 4ga.synhow.com. That is our full domain, and that's the site that people will go to. It's now asking us, where do you want to forward this traffic to? And this is where you want to forward it within your Docker instance. So let's find out where we want to forward it to. Never use an IP address if you can absolutely get away with it, because holy crap, they change, and that's never fun to keep up with. What we want is we want the host name. So if we go back to our Portainer, check this out. We're going to go to containers, and our host name will be this right here. This will be our container name. And so we're going to copy this guy, and we're going to head back over and we're going to paste him in our host name. Make sure we don't have any spaces. I don't think we do. No spaces. Yes, there's a space. I knew it. I had a sneaky suspicion. All right, next up is our forwarding port. And you may remember what that is, but just in case you forgot, very easy to find that out. Let's go over to our compose file. And that's where this port section came into play. Let's zoom in. And remember, the 3000 was the port that was going to be internet facing. And the port that the container's expecting to see traffic coming from or coming to is the 1337. And in case you did not know, that is leet speak. So I love when people use this. You see this all over the place. Let's copy this port. Let's zoom out. Let's go over to Nginx Proxy Manager and let's paste that into my my forwarding port right there. I also do common exploits. I like to block them. I like to enable WebSocket support. A lot of different servers and softwares use that. And now I'm going to hit save. This will work pretty much instantaneously, even if you don't have this subdomain set up. But the next step, we are going to need to make sure that our subdomain is configured beforehand. Otherwise, you're just going to get an error, and that's not going to make anybody happy. I am going to move my head down to the bottom so you can see me. Hello. And let's do this. Let's click on the little periods for our 4GA and hit edit. Let's zoom in. And for SSL, let's go ahead and make ourselves a certificate so we can encrypt all of our traffic. Honestly, it just looks better. I am going to force SSL. I'm going to also agree with the terms of service from Let's Encrypt, and let's hit save. If we did everything in the right order and it's happy and hunky-dory and the information's out there, this window should disappear in a second. And yeah, so now we're good. If you got an error, that could be that maybe you had a typo in your DNS setting, or maybe your DNS has not propagated out, or maybe you did this step before the Namecheap one, or for some reason. I don't know why you would do that, but hey, you know, it's okay. It just means you need to wait for a little while. All right, so assuming we have everything set up, which I think we do, the best way to determine if this is going to work, let's just go and click on this icon right here, and this should open up our site. There we go. I love it when it just works. Remember, when you're first signing in, it's demo, and then we're not going to say the password, and you'll be presented with basically the same thing that I showed you at the beginning of this video, except you won't see the kitchen remodel, but that's okay. You will still see the getting started board, and you'll be able to start experimenting and, you know, setting up your own lists. So, all right, well, I think we covered pretty much most everything, but if there was something I missed or something you're interested in, maybe a question that you have, please consider leaving them down below. I will do my best to answer them. And until next time, I really hope you found this video informative. If you did, consider giving me a thumbs up. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. I hope you guys have a good one. Take care.